Welcome to Massive Beers. My name is Matt. We do the beer stuff here, and I'm very, very excited for today's reviews. Plural. We got two. Because they're kind of connected in a certain sense. First up, Schlenkerla. Yeah, we got one of the newest Schlenkerlers. There's actually a newer one coming out of this, but it's not even in the States yet. Actually, it's beginning of October. It might be landing very, very soon. This is their Rotbier. This is their Rotbier Cherrywood Smoke. From our good friends at Aecht Schlenkerla Brewery. When this was announced, obviously, I dig on my smoke beers. I originally wasn't a big smoke beer. When I originally got into beer, in the 1990s, I didn't really like smoked beers at first. They were just a little bit too out there for me, I guess you could say. My first kind of foray in the smoke beers, and I've talked about this previously, wasn't that great, but shortly after, like in the early aughts, it was something that I've really grown to appreciate. And, I've always had my soft spot in my heart for Schlenkerla as a brewery for all Rauchbier. But they've been kind of the OG masterminds behind it. And, to see OG breweries come out with new beers is always kind of very, very exciting, whether it be, West Mall coming out with something, La Trappe, all the Trappist breweries that do something kooky and new. It's very, very cool to see. So when this actually hit the kind of shelves in the United States, it was definitely something I tried to track down. Couldn't find it really anywhere, and I looked quite a bit. I didn't go like searching, but every time I went somewhere and I knew they had this line of beer, I looked and I couldn't really find it. But with this year's Beer Tube Palooza being up in Connecticut, I knew I was going to be driving by Be United, which is the importer of Schlenkerla. I decided I'm going to stop in there because they have a brewery attached to it. It's very fantastic called OEC. I've reviewed a bunch of the beers. Go check out those reviews. But I went there, had some beers, had a blast, saw this on the shelf, got very, very excited. Then I saw this. That's the Schlenkerla distillate. So this is actually the original Rauchbier, the unfiltered distillated liquor from the Rauchbier, the original Rauchbier from Schlenkerla. I picked this up too. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a double header. We're going to do two separate videos. We'll put this sucker back in the background for now, and we'll review this. I don't think it's fair to do them in the same review, so we'll review this. I'll hit stop, start record. We'll take a little sip of this and talk about that. I'm not all that, not that I'm a genius with words when it comes to beer, but liquor's not my forte, but I'll try to do it a little bit of justice. We'll see what's what. So what do we have going on here with the actual Rotbier? It is Schlenkerla Rotbier Cherrywood Smoked. On the back here, it actually says, for the Aecht Schlenkerla Weichel Red Lager, we dry malt over fire made of high-quality cherry wood instead of beech. Cherry wood has a fruity, sweet aroma and provides a copper red color. The finest aroma hops add berry notes to this full-bodied, pleasant, palatable beer, 4.6%. As one of the last traditionally made smoked beers, Schlenkerla Rauchbier is a passage in the art of taste by slow food. I don't know what that means. Slow food. I think that's a quote that they're quoted, but they don't actually quote it on here. Cherry smoke, 4.6%, bottled by Brewery Hallertau, Bamberg, Germany, imported by Be United. So, I don't remember Schlenkerla having. Has that always been on the caps? I don't think it has. I don't think it has. I think that's relatively new. It could just be butterfly affecting that into my brain. So, yeah, we'll see what's what. Give it a pour. Give it a huff. A little aggressive pour there. Label-wise, it's classic OG Schlenkerla. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to get much better label-wise. Old school, again, Belgian Trappist. Those, English-style labels just appealing to the inside of this guy's heart right here. So, beer-wise, clear, copper in color. I mean, everything they describe on the label is essentially there. You have that kind of just north of khaki colored, south of malt ball colored head. As far as coloration goes, it very much looks like powdered iced tea without a ton of powder in it, but it looks the part of a nice kind of copper coin colored kind of beer, shilling beer along those lines. So, yeah. Let's see what the nose knows. Gentle smoke. Sweet, gentle smoke. Yeah, yeah, it definitely has that classic Schlenkerla, like, fatty smoke, you know. There's multiple levels. There's very big variance in smoke beers, but I boil them down very sophomorically into two classifications, which is wood smoke and fatty smoke. And by fatty smoke, I mean like kielbasa and bologna and all those fatty Polish meats. Schlenkerla has always been a fatty smoke to me. That's very much how it comes off here. Very much smoked sausage like, but it has a little bit of. It's tempered a little bit. It's not nearly as robust. Again, it's there. It's present. You're not missing it by any stretch of the imagination, but it has this little bit of softness to it. It's a little less aggressive. Maybe that would call it a bit more palatable. A nice sweetness to it. Comes off a little candied, like a little bit of kind of, candied. If you've ever reduced like a raisin, like cooked with raisins, that's the kind of sweetness you're getting there. So it's not as sweet saccharine or candy-like sweet as raisin. Once you cook them down, they have this little bit more kind of burnt creme brulee-like kind of like little like burnt brown sugar kind of characteristic to the raisin. That's kind of how the sweetness is coming off in here. In a tempered way, in a 4% kind of way, not in a big barley wine kind of way, obviously. But that smoke is always there, kind of floating around. It smells really nice. Let's dive in. Cheers, y'all. Yeah. It really is probably. It's weird because I think it's obviously maltier. So if we're thinking about the Schlenkerla line, as far as beers go, it's obviously maltier than their the base lager. When you start to get into something a little bit richer, like Fest beer, I think it's a little bit maltier than that. A decent bit maltier, but less smoky than that. If that makes any sense. Or it could be equally as smoky, but the maltiness here is a little bit bigger. Dare I say there's a decent bittering to this, which is quite odd. Not that I don't get a bittering from Schlenkerla beers, from Rauchbier in general, but I feel like there's a big. I think the wood is big. I think the malt is big. I think the bittering is big. And I think the smoke is probably the least expressive portion of the show, which is a little bit mind-boggling when it comes to Schlenkerla. It's delicious. I'm not saying that's a negative thing. I'm just saying it's usually smoke first, everything else second when it comes to Schlenkerla. Not that their beers are just like a challenge smoke to your face kind of thing, but that's what their beers are. But the way this kind of comes off, the maltiness is sweeter, richer. Again, it comes off as a savory cooked raisin kind of sweetness to me. Very much dipping into your figgy datey kind of area of sweetness as opposed to just a burnt brown sugar. Something a bit more richer, a bit more pruny, a bit more richer to it. The bitterness here is quite sturdy. Like I said, it's not that I don't get bitterness from Schlenkerla beers, but it's not something I typically bring up because it's there, but it's almost like a foundational thing, you know what I mean? Something that's there as purpose. And here it comes off a little bit more showy. Again, kind of unique. I do kind of dig it. There is a dryness to this. Again, smoked beers tend to come a little bit dry. You have a little bit more kind of bittering in it. But I feel like there's there's something about the cherry wood smoke here. The cherry wood portion of the show has a little bit more of effect here, a little bit more kind of tangy effect to it. I don't know if that's the case, but it just kind of perceptually in my brain, it just kind of makes that make more sense. And the smoke is there. Again, you're not going to confuse this with a not smoked beer. It is a smoked beer. That is definitely the leading actor in the beer itself because it is a smoked beer. No shit, Sherlock. But it's like, you ever watch a movie and the actor's the lead actor is so subdued or so not hair on fire, for lack of a better term, that you almost view them as a supporting actor. That's kind of the best analogy I can come up with, the way the kind of smoke works in this beer. And let's put it this way. They talked about, what were their words on here? Pleasantly palatable. I think this is a very cool bridge beer for people that like if they like beer, but they never really dug smoked beer, but they want to get into it, and they dig on malty beers, because this very much kind of leans heavily malty. It's very much kind of Doppelbock. Like, I know they make a Doppelbock, but for this comes off a little bit more Doppelbocky to me than it leads you to believe. And I think you give this to somebody, I think it's more like, okay, the smoke is kind of an interesting flavor profile, along with all these other great flavors I understand already. That bitterness, that sweetness, those kind of things, but adds the smoke component to it. This kind of beer existed when it wasn't just a base Schlenkerla. I think I would have been a little bit more appreciative sooner, rather than taking a year or two to getting into smoked beers, and, instead of not digging them straight off the bat, God, Jesus Christ, 25 years? 25 plus years ago, which is insane to think about. It seems like something that I think a lot of people really dig. You know what I mean? Even people that say they're not in the big in the smoke. And a very, very fun beer. It might be my favorite. This might be no, the lager. The base, just lager chugger, is probably my favorite, but this is a very, very close second. There's something about this that just tickles me pink. It has everything. It has so much DNA and so much core to what Schlenkerla is, but I think it's just a funner beer than some of the other ones. Is that blasphemy for saying that? The New Kid on the Block is one of the best ones, but I really think that's true. I really, really do. And, yeah. That does not suck. I'm super, super excited for this. Got a 4-pack of it. Actually, no, I have a 3-pack of it. I gave one to James from Rampant Lion Reviews when he was here. He actually reviewed it before I did. He reviewed it here on his own, and I'm curious to see what he has to say about it, because I think it's something to be talked about more at a long form, and that's what he definitely does. But yeah, absolutely fantastic. Definitely a bit more kind of sweet for me than I remember a lot of Schlenkerla beers being. Very much, again, cooked kind of flambéed kind of raisin kind of vibe to it. More bittering than I'm used to, but since you have that elevated sweetness, I think it really does kind of work. Again, I haven't even said this. 4.3%. This drink's like 8% to me. That's crazy. Mouthfeel's fantastic. The sweetness of the beer is great. And it's the smoke being a little bit more subtle. It's probably on the same level as everything else, but all those other components are a little bit bigger for me. So it maybe tempers that smoke a little bit and just comes off as world-class Rauch. And honestly, like I said, the Helles Lager, that is going to be the love of my life. But this one's putting up a fight. Let's put it that way. So, yeah, is this one of the better Rauch beers I've had as of late? Yes, Mount Rushmore status without a MFing doubt. Absolutely 100%. Fantastic beer. Can't wait to drink them all. Value availability. These usually pop off at around $5 to $7 a bottle where I live. $4.99 to $7 is typically, you saw 5 to 7. This was $16. I want to say no. See, yeah, $16 a 4-pack. Yeah, that works for me. $4 a bottle, I'll buy this all day. And leave with, if you like what we like this, you like smoked beer, you like Rauchbier, you like Doppelbocks. If you like, and this is a weird way to kind of phrase it, if you like beer and you like exploring flavor, and you've tried some smoked beers and they just haven't really, they haven't hooked you, they haven't got their claws into you, and you definitely dig on the maltier side of things, Doppelbock, barley wine, wee heavy, those kind of beers, I really think this is something to try, because I think in that mindset, I think this beer really, really does work in the smoke, while present, is tempered enough and not as aggressive, where I think it ends up being something that might get a lot of people into Rauchbier. If that's the case, then that's a very cool beer on multiple levels. But yeah, Schlenkerla, have you been to the brewery? I have not, and I am very, very, very jealous, because I just watched several people that I follow on Instagram post everything about the brewery. The All About Beer crew, John Hall, M. Sauter, a bunch of those people just went on a trip to Oktoberfest. They went to Schlenkerla, and oh man, this dude is jealous. So I have not. Have been to the brewery. What was it like? What's your favorite beer? Have you had all their beers? Have you had all their beers and this beer? What's your favorite Schlenkerla beer? Where would you put this? Not that you have to be like, this is the best, this is the worst. Be like, this is one of the better ones I've had. You don't have to be that, we have to rate it. But where does this fall for you in the line of Schlenkerla stuff? That I'm very, very curious about. So there we go. Reviewing the books. Part 1, at least. Because we got part 2 coming up very, very quick. We're going to dive into the distillate. That's going to be a separate video. So we'll sidecar this on the side of that video because I think that makes a little bit of sense. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the review. Stick around for part 2. Again, separate video. We'll post them all same day. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. Hopefully you guys checked out the distillate one. Hope to see you in a bit. Cheers, y'all.